HollyMeis. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, 1960. 2019, I was still working full-time at the hospital that I worked at, and my husband also was working as well, and we were empty nesters, so we enjoyed the things going on in Sioux City. I think things started to change maybe in the beginning of spring, middle spring type in 2020. We started having to wear masks, and we saw more and more patients coming in with COVID. We had to designate a certain floor for COVID patients. Then things really started to unravel, I would say, probably in the middle of April. We had a couple kids that were graduating. My oldest son was graduating from law school, and my youngest daughter was graduating from undergrad at Loyola, Chicago, and we had to cancel all those plans for their graduations. And I had a week at the end of April and the first week in May taken off for those. And I stopped off at work shortly before that to pick up something in my locker, and I walked into what I would consider a MASH episode. Our whole department had turned into an ICU because ICU could not accommodate all the COVID patients, so they were spilling into my department. I worked in a phase 1 post-anesthesia care unit. Then I felt very guilty and called my manager and asked if there was anything I could do to help out. And apparently one of our nurses that works the night shift had taken a leave of absence, and she said, I have a week of 12-hour night shifts, which I've worked nights for 30 years. So, but I committed to it, only to realize that these were patients that were a little bit beyond what we were used to taking care of. My second assignment, they were going to give me 3 intensive care patients to take care of, and I just told them that wasn't safe. That's pretty much what our department turned into, was an intensive care unit. I also remember that's the time I got an app on my phone for Starbucks because I needed a little food therapy, and my routine would be to drive through Starbucks and get a coffee, realizing that that's really the only thing that I was able to drink or eat during the whole day. My anxiety was so bad that I couldn't even eat. Of course, we didn't get breaks anyway. So I do remember a terrible shift one time. I had a intubated patient in one room, and I had another patient that I was weaning off a medication drip. And I felt so bad because time had gotten away from me that I totally missed ordering dinner for him. I asked him, where can I get some dinner for you? And he said, well, I really like Townhouse. So I said, let me order you some dinner. But I felt a lot of times coming home from work very deflated. It was unsafe. I didn't feel like I was able to give the patients the care and the time that they needed. I started losing weight. I started just having impending doom when I woke up in the morning, realizing that I had to go to work to do this. And I told my manager I felt like I just had to take a leave of absence. I just felt very disappointed and unsupported. They did not honor my short-term disability. And I do remember reading an article in the paper about our leadership feeling that at no point nurses were overwhelmed with the work that they had. Mm-hmm. So it was a time when nurses were being celebrated as heroes, but I felt very shortchanged and unsupported by my own leadership. I do remember just going out for more walks and taking advantage of being outdoors and just really appreciating nature more and just the area that we lived in. And one day, I just ended up driving to Okoboji for breakfast.
Support for Facing a Changed World, an oral history of the COVID-19 pandemic, comes from the Margaret Ann Martin Everest Foundation, the Kind World Foundation, Humanities Iowa, the Friends of Siouxland Public Media, and listeners like you.